Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Just to let you know that we are recording this session. I'd like to thank Alyse for returning. Some of you might have attended the first session, which is excellent. If you didn't, we have a link to the video. If anybody would like that afterwards, then please let me know. But we're going to be covering slightly different topic this time. So to introduce that, I'd just like to pass you over to Alyse Schneider, who's going to talk you through the session. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me again today for the Mature Student webinar. For all of you who are new today, welcome. We will be talking about the Mature Student webinar part 2, which is a case for resilience. We'll be discussing graduating during a global pandemic. So if you just give me a moment, I will share my presentation with you. Okay, here we go. So as I said, today we have a few things on our agenda. Firstly, I would like to discuss what we talked about last webinar, which was goals and accountability. We'll do a little refresher on that. And then I'd like to get into the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, what we can do about it. And then we will finish with a resiliency exercise. So if you were able to download and print the PDF that we sent out earlier today, make sure to get that out. If you were not able to print it, don't worry. We will be able to write it down as we go. Just make sure to have a few sheets of paper with you and a pen, and I'll let you know when we get started with that. So after today's webinar, you should have an increased sense of progress toward your goals. You should feel more prepared in tackling the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And you should feel more confident in your ability to take on challenges and bounce back after temporary defeats. Now remember, participation is key. Just like in our last month's webinar, it's really, really important to jump into that chat box and talk with everyone and share with everyone. I know a lot of you were saying that was a really amazing part of the webinar, just to really connect to people and to see that you're not the only one going through these struggles. So participation is very, very important. I welcome all of you to jump into that chat box and to really take time to go through this exercise with us too, because it will be really helpful for you now and into the future. So firstly, like I said, I would like to have a brief check-in with you guys. So if you remember from last month's webinar, we spoke about goals and we clarified what some of your goals were. We talked about accountability and how you can be accountable to your goals. And that was through finding an accountability partner that you could speak to. You could have hired a coach to work with, or you could have set up a reward system for yourself. And we also set out an action plan for you to start taking action toward your goals. And I told you that by the time that this webinar would happen, you should have had 2 action steps toward your goals, because we set an action step for every 2 weeks. So, and this would be a form of accountability as well to talk about this right now. So I first would like to ask, how is everyone doing? How has everyone been doing on making progress toward their goals and taking that action? Have you been successful? If you have, that is wonderful, really good on you. Please share. If you have been successful, please talk about what your successes were. Just jump right into the chat box and start sharing with everyone. And also share if you have any tips or tricks or tools that you use in order to keep yourself accountable and on task. Because if you share that with other people, then we can all really progress together. And it'd be really, really important and just nice to have that experience. So if you have been successful, please share. And if you haven't been successful, don't worry, that's fine too. Actually, when you don't follow through with your plans and something comes up, it's not the end of the world, because you can actually learn from that as well. When you look inside and really assess what situations presented themselves to prevent you from taking action and to moving forward, you can really hone in on some key aspects of yourself that you might want to work on and progress through. So sometimes failing to do a task can actually be more beneficial. So if you haven't been able to follow through on those tasks, please also share that into the chat box, because we've all been there. We're all in this together, and it's just nice to see what everyone else has been experiencing as well. So let's check in with ourselves. Now, if you didn't follow through with your tasks, please ask yourself, why not? And don't give a fake answer like I didn't have enough time, because that's really not the true answer, and it's not really going to do anything for you because it's not really addressing the root of the problem. So really, take a moment and think within yourself, what truly got in the way? The whys can be incredibly revealing and help you to identify your truths about yourself and your life that are important to take notice of and work on. So think again. Did you not have the time, or did you not make the time? It's a very important difference. And there's this exercise that I'd like to do for situations like this. It's called 7 Levels Deep exercise. And it really helps you to hone in on those key aspects of why you do what you do, why you take the actions that you do, what is the driving force behind what your goals are in life. And it could be really helpful in this situation as well. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have enough time to really talk about it. However, I do have the document set aside. So if you would like more information about it, I can send it over to you at the end of the webinar. You can just email me at the end and I'll give you the information for that. So another good aspect about checking in with yourself is that when you are addressing these problems, like I said, you can overcome them in a more successful way. And that helps to build resilience. So what is resilience? Well, resilience describes a person's capacity to cope with changes and challenges in their life and to bounce back during those difficult times. The more resilient you are, the better you are at getting through those challenges, at recovering from those adversities and those experiences of trauma. Now, why is this important? Well, as we all know, life is unpredictable, and it likes to send us those curveballs every now and then. I mean, look at the COVID-19 pandemic. No one could have prepared for this. But if you're resilient, you can transcend it and move through it. So people who are more resilient tend to be more hopeful, confident, and possess higher self-worth during those hard times. They're more likely to overcome challenges, recognize when they need support, and develop those coping strategies to enable them to handle difficult situations with more ease in the future. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you will have those coping strategies in check for yourself. All in all, the more resilient you are, the more success you will have in life because you can move through those difficult times. So let's take a look at the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this pandemic has had detrimental effects on the entire world, and not just the minutiae of people's personal lives, but also globally, the economy. There's been tremendous impact on jobs and for graduates like you. So let's take a look at jobs first. The coronavirus lockdown measures have forced the UK into its biggest recession on record. And the unemployment rate is the highest we've seen since the 2009 financial crisis. And for graduates, this has shown that graduate recruitment is likely to be operating at 2/3 capacity at least until next year, if not the year after. So, however grim this might sound, it's important to realize that you do still have power in this situation, and there is something that we can do about it. So what can we do about it? Well, the greatest way to transcend uncertainty is to maintain an internal locus of control. So let's take a look at this diagram and identify which is your locus of control. So your locus of control is essentially where you place your control. Is it outside of you or is it inside of you? If you have an external locus of control, you operate under the mentality that things just happen to you and there's nothing that you can do about it. It's more of a reaction response rather than being proactive. So if something detrimental were to happen, you'd say, well, what's the point? I can't do anything about it. There's nothing that I can do. Why is this happening to me? It's a very helpless position to be in. Whereas if you have an internal locus of control, you believe the power comes from within you. And despite all of the external circumstances that might be presenting themselves, you still feel like you can do something about it. And that's not to say that you're not going to get depressed. I mean, if something bad happens, it's okay to react negatively. It's natural. But if you have an internal locus of control, you are more able to snap out of it quicker and then to take that power back and think, you know what, there is something I can do. I have control over my future. I will make something happen. So the degree to which people believe that they are in control significantly influences their attitudes towards difficult situations. It affects their resilience and determines their coping strategies. So there is a positive correlation with having an internal locus of control and resilience. The more in control you feel that you are of your circumstance and your life, the more resilient you will be. So now that we have talked about the internal locus of control and feel that we potentially might have some more power than maybe we thought before, let's think about what sort of things that we can do right now, given the situation that we're in. So we're in this global pandemic, and we are either graduating soon or within the next year, and we want to be able to get a job, but jobs might not be so available. What can we do? Does anybody have any ideas of something that you can do in order to put yourself ahead and have an advantage in this situation? You can feel free to share in the chat box if you have any ideas. If anyone has any ideas, you can share. Well,
sorry, Alyse, could you repeat the question? I lost you for a second.
Yeah, so I asked, is there anything that you can do to put yourself in an advantage situation for the circumstances that we're in right now? So what can you do to get ahead if you can't necessarily get a job straight away? What can you do to help yourself out?
Thank you.
Yes. So as you can see from the slide, one of the things that you can do is sharpen your skills to gain an advantage. It's shown that 90% of graduates don't know how to write CVs, how to interview well, to demonstrate the right employability skills, or know how to find jobs that best suit their skills. And this actually applies to me as well. When I was doing research for this webinar, I found all of these different job pathways that I didn't know existed before. And it's funny because you would think that you know where your skills lie, but sometimes, especially when there's a lot of change going on in our atmosphere, these new types of positions start to get created and show up. And through my own research, I was able to find new pathways for me to go down. In in my career. So it's important to do your research, to look online, to read what's going on, what are these different things that I might be interested in, and what can it lead to. You can also work with a careers coach to help you out with this, because a career coach can sit down with you, help you write your CV. They will go through an interview with you so that you can feel more prepared when you take on the real one. And they can help direct you down a path for a career that suits your skills. And you can actually go to the UEL Center for Student Success. They actually have mentors, and they have career coaches, and they have academic tutors. They have all of these resources available to you. So look out and see what your resources are. And I've actually compiled a list of many websites, many resources that I gained when I was researching for this webinar. And if you would like to see what that list is, there's a lot of free stuff. I think it's all free stuff. So if you would like me to send that to you, you can email me at the end of the webinar and I'll pass on that information. Okay, now it's important to focus on the positives. If you remember from our last webinar, I spoke about how your perspective can change everything in your life, because your perspective changes the way that you think, which affects what you believe, which affects what actions you take, and thus affects what response you get back in life. So if you focus on the positives, even in a detrimental situation like we're in, you're more likely to have a positive result. So what are some positives of the situation right now? Well, the value of graduate recruitment still remains high. And that's because graduates are essential hires to these large companies because they help shape the future of that company as it grows. So just because there is less opportunity doesn't mean that the value has gone down. The value is still high. So you can still look out there and see what companies are hiring. And although there are a lot of sectors which have failed during this time, there are some sectors that have actually progressed and that are booming. And those are sectors such as transport and distribution. Health is a huge one right now. Food services, information and technology, communication, anything that's online or anything that revolves around social media is going to be huge right now and thriving. And that's because there is a shift going on. Everything has moved online and everything is becoming centralized around social media. So there's going to be a lot of new jobs created in that realm. So if you have any skills in these areas, be on the lookout, check out these sectors, because there's still going to be jobs that are positioned in these sectors. There's still people that are looking for graduates to come work with them in these sectors. And let's talk about that. Which companies? So typically it's the really large companies that are still doing well. In fact, some of the largest companies have even boomed during this coronavirus pandemic, such as Amazon or Aldi or Barclays, BP, Civil Service, Little, RBS, and Teach First. These are all large companies that are still recruiting grads. So make sure to check out these particular companies and any other large company that you can think of, because chances are they don't have a hiring freeze. They're still trying to get more people to come and join their organization. And last but not least, the whole aspect of things being virtual these days is actually kind of a benefit, because number one, you have more time to focus on preparing for your interview. Normally, we would have to think about how are we going to get to the interview, how long is it going to take, what mode of transportation, where is it going to be located, and this can all distract you from the actual important thing, which is showing off your skills during the interview. And now all you have to do is sit in front of your computer and wear something smart. So you have more time to focus on the actual interview. Another added benefit is that you can actually look for jobs that are outside of your living area. Normally, we would just apply to things in the area that we could either take transport to or drive to, but now we have the ability to apply to jobs in a completely different country. So you have more opportunity to find a job that's better suited to you because there's more out there that you can reach out to. And if you ever wanted to live in a different country, this is a great opportunity to try to make it happen. Last but not least, another added benefit of being virtual is that group assessments have been replaced by one-on-one interviews. So before the pandemic, there were a lot of companies that would do group interviews where you would sit in a room with 5 or 6 other people. You would all be sitting around a table, and then there would be the interviewer asking you and everyone else in the room the same exact questions. And that could be really daunting because you are in the moment trying to figure out what's the best thing to say. You are trying to differentiate yourself from the person who just went before you. You have all these eyes watching you, and that can be pretty anxious for some people. So the fact that that's not happening these days is quite a benefit for everyone who wants to do the one-on-one interview and feels like they're better suited for that. There is a greater opportunity for you to actually connect with the person in front of you and really show off your skills. So despite us going through a difficult time right now, there are still some positives of this situation that we can really take advantage of. So in last month's webinar, we were talking about the differences between mature students and the younger students. And there was one key advantage that mature students had over the younger students. Does anyone remember what that was? If you do, please share in the chat box. Yes, very, very good, Sheila. Experience. Mature students have experience. It's important to use this experience in your interviews and in your application process. Recruiters have said that mature students perform better and have higher levels of loyalty and commitment than younger students. And they actually prefer working with the older graduate students and the younger ones for this reason, because they can rely on them and they feel like they have more faith in these students, the mature ones, to actually do well in the position that they set them up for. And because you have so much experience, it's important to tailor your application with the specific experience that is applicable to the job that you're applying for. Because you have so much to choose from, you can really make it customized to that job requirement. So don't be afraid to make more than one CV. And you can also make multiple cover letters as well. I know it sounds like a lot of work to really make and alter these changes, but if you do that, you really set yourself apart from everyone else, and you have a greater chance and likelihood to make that connection with an employer. So it's really important that you take advantage of this. And to make use of those resources, if you have difficulty with making CVs or cover letters, you can use the resources that I mentioned before. There's also so much other stuff online that will help you, and more of that is listed in my PDF document that I compiled. It's also important to use positive language. And don't apologize for your age. This is something that a lot of recruiters find in the older graduate students, is that they apologize for their age. And it's important to remember that this is an advantage. Remember, you have more experience, you have more depth, you have more resources. And that's a really great thing. So highlight that to the recruiters or the employers that you're speaking to. And use your network. We talked about this last time. the more people you know, the more opportunity that you have. So connect with people from previous jobs. You can speak to your friends, maybe even friends of friends, or even your family, perhaps even your neighbors. The more people who know, the better. And let it be known that you are open to opportunities so that they can keep you in mind. Also, it's important to identify the skills that you've acquired from these life experiences, from previous work and your studies. It might be a good idea to actually make a list of all of your skills that you've acquired over the years and really master that and know it well, because that is something that you can go to when you're having your interview. And these can be skills such as teamwork, communication, time management, and adaptability is really key here. Adaptability is one of the most important qualities that employers and recruiters are looking for, especially this year. Because of everything that's happened since 2020, everything has changed. There's been so much uncertainty, and employers really want to know that you can adapt to these changes. And for many of you, I'm sure you probably started university doing normal classes before the 2020 pandemic, and you've had to move into doing everything online. So that right there shows your adaptability. You have been able to maneuver a completely different operating system for your studies, and that is an important skill to have, especially if you have been able to succeed during this process. It's an amazing thing to highlight. So keep that in mind. Also highlight your self-motivation skills. As we know, we've come back to university for a reason. And that's because you have this self-motivation, you have drive, you have this foresight into the future of things that you want to accomplish and where you want to go in life. And that is really, really important because the younger students are still trying to figure that out. But for the older graduate students, you really have that set in stone in your mind already, and you've already cultivated those attributes. So it's important to highlight that. Another important thing about this exact situation is that a lot of employers are looking for this because everyone is working from home these days, at least for the most part. So a lot of employers and managers don't have the ability to micromanage the way that they used to. So they're looking for people who have these self-motivation skills that they can put their faith and trust into and know that they're actually going to get the work done, even if they are in a different city or even if they are at home in their PJs. So if you have a strong sense of self-motivation, that's another really important thing to highlight. And also convey your reliability and loyalty with confidence. As I have said, this is what the recruiters and the employers are looking for. A lot of the younger students, when they are looking to leave academia and go into the workforce, they're kind of testing the waters a bit. And they will stick their toe into one job and get the feel for it and gain some experience, and then they'll want to switch to a different one a couple years later. And this is not something that really the mature graduate students do, because you've kind of already done that and you have more long-term goals in mind. And this is something that employers really, really like. So be confident in your reliability and loyalty, because that will definitely set you apart. And if you're having trouble finding these permanent positions because of the pandemic, still look for opportunities to gain those skills, because any skill that you build right now will transfer over into your experience elsewhere. So what are some options? What are some other ways that we can build up skills? Well, first, there's study. You can get your postgraduate degree, which will increase your value to a prospective employer, will build up that skills and the knowledge for sure. There's also several online universities that you can take courses on for free. One of them is the Massive Open Online Courses, which is mooc.org. If you go to futurelearn.com, they actually have an entire course on how to get a postgrad job, which is awesome, and that's completely free. And we also have the Open University online. The MSE's Academy of Money has put out a free adult financial education course. And this is really, really cool because finance, unless you're actually in that field within university, that's not something that's taught in education, really. That's something that you have to learn as you age and gain more experience and make mistakes. So it's really, really awesome that they're doing this for free. And I've compiled that into my list of links for you as well if you would like to get more information. Now, if you don't want to study, you can also volunteer. This is a great way to boost your skill set. And there's an organization called studenttier.co.uk that works specifically with students who are looking to volunteer. And the thing about volunteering is that it not only helps boost your skill set, but it boosts your mood as well. Because studies have shown that when you're feeling down and depressed, the best way for you to get out of it is to put your energy out and help other people. It's the quickest way to improve your well-being in those given situations. And we all know that we've gone through tough times. So that's a really, really amazing thing about volunteering, is that you're boosting your skill set, you're boosting your mood and well-being, and you're also helping other people. So it can't really get much better than that. And you can also get involved in virtual internships. There's a website called virtualinternships.com, and they actually provide you an ability to do internships in different countries across the world. So definitely go check that resource, check that website out if you have any interest in learning new skills in a different country. Now, if you are still having trouble finding your career and you want to actually work and make money, a really good thing about this time of life right now is that remote work is very prevalent. So it's easy to find something that you can do in the meantime and still do it from home. So have a look on websites on Indeed or LinkedIn. There are several remote work opportunities. And you can also teach English online. All you need to do is get your TEFL or TESOLs certification. It's pretty easy to do. And English courses and English tutors are really high in demand right now. And you can do it from your home, and you can teach people from all over the world. So it's a really unique opportunity to make money and to connect with other people. And if you have any other languages that you know, that you can still do it to those languages as well. So definitely check out these resources. And here are some other top tips for you to check out. Look on social media for jobs. Many large organizations, such as Amazon and AWS, are making it easier to engage with the people that they're looking to hire. So they are making it easier to engage with graduates on platforms they already use, such as Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So make sure you check out those places for jobs. Obviously, LinkedIn is a well-known one, but Instagram and Facebook have jobs too. So definitely check that out. And if you are on the younger end of our mature students, the government has recently announced a new Kickstarter program in which they are subsidizing 6-month work placements for those at the highest risk of long-term unemployment. And those are the people aged 16 to 24. You do have to be on universal credit in order to apply. But if you think that that applies to you, definitely go check that out. It's called A Plan for Jobs 2020. That would definitely be a very helpful resource for you. Now, through this whole process, through all of these challenges, it's important to keep an entrepreneurial mindset. The 2021 Workplace Learning Report on LinkedIn just revealed that resilience and upskilling are the top priorities to build globally this year. This is what employers are going to be looking for, these skills. So be open and ready for change and adjustments and for things to switch up. This is where your adaptability skills will come into play. And remember to keep investing in yourself, because change will always happen. That's something that we can rely on. But as long as you're investing in yourself and investing in your own skills, you can always know that you will be able to get through any challenges that might come your way. So now that we've gone through all of that, it's time for our resilience exercise to help you to cultivate more resilience in your life and for your future. So if you have your PDF download, get that out now. If you don't, go ahead and take out 3 sheets of paper and a pen, and we will go through this together right now. So the first part is going to be looking at your past sources of resilience. So this is what you've used in the past to transcend challenges and issues. Like I said, resilience is the ability to cope with whatever life throws at you and bounce back stronger and more steadfast than before. Resilient people work through life's challenges using their personal resources, which include social support, coping strategies, sagacity, which is the wisdom and insight that we hold on to, and solution seeking. So this exercise will help you draw on the resilience resources that you've used in the past in order to help you combat future challenges in the future. So if you have your PDF out, that's great. If you don't, if you are making this page right now as we go, I want you to create, your first page is going to be Appendix A, and I want you to label it My Past Sources of Resilience. So this is going to be the one that you see on the left here on the screen. Leave some room at the top because we're going to write something there. Underneath, go ahead and create this cross because we're going to make 4 quadrants. The top quadrant is going to be labeled supports that kept you upright. The top right one is going to be labeled strategies that kept you moving. The bottom right is solution-seeking behaviors that you showed. And the bottom left is the sagacity that gave you comfort and hope. Now, once you write all that down, on your next sheet of paper, I want you to label it Appendix B. This is going to be your resilience plan for the future. Again, leave some space at the top, and then you can draw these quadrants down at the bottom. It looks very similar to the last one that we just drew, but this one is more present. So supports that keep you upright, strategies that keep you moving, solution-seeking behaviors that you can show, and sagacity that gives you comfort and hope. So go ahead and write that down now on your sheets of paper. The third sheet, we will be going over some questions at the end. So step 1 is to recall a recent example of resilience that you portrayed, that you can recognize. So think about a time recently when you overcame a challenge or setback in your life. Perhaps you injured yourself or received some negative feedback from someone at work. Maybe you had an argument with a friend or a family member or a loved one, or maybe you did something that you regret doing. Briefly describe this difficulty that you encountered below. Make sure that it's a recent example. And I'm going to give you 1 minute to work on that, and I will play some music for you so that way you can focus a little bit better. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I saw that someone wrote a question and asked if companies like to recruit us for graduate programs, and I'm assuming you mean mature graduate students. And the answer is yes, they definitely do still recruit mature graduates for graduate programs because of all of the reasons that we listed previously. So definitely still stay open to that. Okay, so now going back to the exercise. Now that you've completed that,